Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are based in the world. My name is Gabriele Romagnoli. I'm head of marketing at Community and ShapesXR. And today I'm here with the team from Antwerpes because they have created something very special and because we would all have a lot to learn about how they have used ShapesXR and how they actually have also worked with brands and created some great experiences to showcase to their potential clients. So these are some of the things that we are gonna here discuss today. And without further ado, I would like to give the chance to Tatjana and to Matthias to briefly introduce yourself. Matthias, Tatjana, it is a really great pleasure to have you.
Yeah, and Gabriela, thank you for having us. But Tatjana, if you would like, you can start.
Of course, sure.
And by the way, I'm sorry, Tatjana, if I interrupt. I just want to remind everybody that is here listening live that all questions are more than welcome, right? So tune in, drop them in the comments, and then we'll hand them over to them. So this is a great opportunity. Sorry, Tatjana, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So, hi everyone. My name is Tatjana. As introduced, I'm part of Antwerpes AG, which will be more introduced by Matthias a little later. I'm part of a bigger team, the Extended Realities team, and my role is a 3D artist. So I'm responsible for creating all the graphical content, basically 3D models, animations, storylines, everything around these topics for extended realities applications. So that means virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, um, everything you can think of in this topic. And the extended realities team is actually an interdisciplinary team. So we're 14 people altogether, being um, developers, technical artists, and 3D artists. Yeah.
Thanks, Tatjana. And while you're doing this, people are starting to join in. We got Lena. Hi, Lena. Thanks for joining on LinkedIn. Bruce from Cornwall, UK. It's a pleasure to have you. Then we have Omer. Kilis says, hey. John. Hi, hey, and of course also hi, Takis. So we are live now both on LinkedIn and YouTube. I see people keep dropping in. So don't be shy, ask questions, prepare them, and let's first give the Matthias a few seconds to introduce himself first.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. Yeah, my name is Matthias Stubbe. I'm working at Antwerpes. I'm the head of tech and innovation, and I'm here for the business side of the topic extended reality. So we are focused on stuff like AI and extended reality, but also other innovative technology. But today it's mainly about extended reality and ShapesXR and how it helped us in the project.
Absolutely. And one very important thing is that we're going to discuss today is a bit of the creative aspects with Tatjana, but also the business aspects. And those are two very important things that needs to go hand in hands in order to make this big project happens. Right. So it is about how you pitch a project. It is about how you frame it. It is about how you do the discovery, how you frame the value that it brings. So I think it's really great to have both. And by the way, people keep falling in. Dario Bellintani, ciao Dario, piacere. Rahi Sharma, we have him. Karam Marketkar. Apologies if I butcher your name. Apologies. But thanks everybody for tuning in. So, Matthias, maybe why don't we do this? Why don't you briefly introduce about Antwerpes AG?
Yes, sure. Other than the name would sound like Antwerpes AG, we're actually based in Cologne, Germany, and we are a healthcare-focused 360-degree agency. Well, focus on healthcare marketing. And we were founded around about 30 years ago, and we got a strong digital focus. So over 50% of agencies about digital project. But as I said, 360 degree, our clients come to us. We can offer everything from a congress booth over a flyer to social media until extended reality, of course. On the business side, we have around about 5 consultants for 3D, AR, VR, And like Tatjana said, on the server side, we got around about 14 people, developers, technical artists, 3D artists. And maybe we can take a closer look on the services we offer in extended reality, because
Absolutely.
I
I
think
mean,
it's
if you have a couple of slides that you would like to share, then maybe you can be handy. No problem.
yeah, sure, no problem. So let me share my screen. Just give me a second, Gabriele.
By the way, ciao Marina, Borriello. And everybody, curious where you guys are tuning in. I think it's always great to get people from different area of the world. And let me add the slide. Here we go.
Yeah, so in the course of implementing extended reality projects, and I have to say, since 9 years now as an agency, and it started all with one little project in 2014, and has become an important department in our agency and also for future projects. And while creating that projects, we identified some distribution channels for us and our clients to be able to implement extended reality projects. So, and here you can see these channels. There's, for example, the sales channel, because our clients are mainly medical institutions or pharmaceutical companies, also the big players on the market. And they, of course, got the sales rep team. And since a few years, they go out with iPads and interactive PDFs. And of course, there are possibilities to do it more exciting and tell about an indication or a disease or a pathology or the mode of action of a product more interesting than with a illustration or just a graph. And we implemented several projects in the last years and also this year for the sales rep teams of our clients, and they present, like I said, even the current study data. They appear in the room, and the HCP, the main target group here, is really excited about how data can be presented in a different way, but also organs and other medical
Absolutely.
stuff.
And Matthias, there is also one key thing, is because very often when we think about extended reality and healthcare, the first thing that we think about is training, right? Or at least this is the first association. And I think what you're saying here, that there could be a lot of ways in which extended reality can be used. So probably already a takeaway for the audience listening, like when reaching out to healthcare, there might be other ways or dimension in which you can help those big organizations in selling the product, educating doctors or whoever then at that point, right? Because then the content can be, let's say, produced ad hoc.
Yes, it's an important point for also onboardings or clinical onboardings or give education, even though we got some projects that were launched in universities in Germany. So our clients create software for the future doctor, so for example, that one department for the medical studies get more exciting to be booked, or the less. And like the topic of today, congresses is also a very important distribution channel. And like you can see, we got for our clients some hints which technologies works the best for which distribution channel. And of course, for congresses, we recommend sensor-based applications, virtual reality applications, and augmented reality. And also the case we brought today was, of course, a mixed reality application. And it totally makes sense because it's the most immersive experience you can have. And just to another word, since we have such a great palette of clients from big to small, we also implemented our own framework called Met Reality to be able to launch quickly small prototypes and pilot projects when they are not committed to launch their own application already. So if they want to test it with their sales rep team or just for one congress, then we go from prototype and ShapesXR to this framework, which we created to have really a place where to launch it quickly because the app is available and we already developed a virtual reality environment.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think that we are going to discuss indeed how you go from a concept to something that you can indeed pitch to client. That's one of the things we're going to discuss today. And while people keep joining in, hi Brittany, it's a pleasure to have you from Chicago, Illinois. That is actually very early. That is actually very early there. So thanks for tuning in, Brittany. Uh, Maybe I want to ask to the people that are here listening, who curious, are you actually working with extended reality in healthcare? And if so, how? Right? So what kind of content are you producing? So while you think about an answer, I would be really curious. Maybe we can start from where Matthias ended. So how do you actually, before a project is pitched, right? So what happens is that this healthcare, usually they come in and then they have, I want to use this technology. I want to create something more engaging. What can you do for me? Before a project is pitched, how do you run that initial discovery and understanding with your client or potential client?
So maybe I can start from the business side and then I hand over to Tatjana from the operative side. And so we got different scenarios. Of course, there are some pitches where the client knows what he wants. He wants to have something exciting for the next booth, for the next congress. And he got some ideas. And then we try to visualize it very quickly and create prototypes. And that's where tools like ShapesXR help us to make it really understandable. But sometimes we also create our own ideas in tools, and then we go upfront to our clients and present them to them. We make a roadshow. We say, oh, we're in the city, let's have a chat. And then we are able to present it on the Meta Quest or on the Meta Pro, on a goggle, because we all know here who are enthusiasts for extended reality, that it's very hard to transport that emotion and immersive feeling that virtual reality has with just images and text, right? And yeah, in the process, that's where Tatjana and the team comes, and when we brainstorm also with our medical staff, and create some teasing experiences.
So, and when we think specifically about healthcare, right? So, what are the challenges of building campaigns specifically, maybe for the healthcare market, and how do you address them?
Well, where we are based in Germany, of course, there are some restrictions. Our main target group are HCPs, because there are products you can talk about in publicly and some not. So there are some login systems and it's all behind login. But that's why the congresses are a main distribution channel, also for us as an agency in extended reality, because there we have that target group and there we are allowed to talk about the mode of action of a product, and because it's not commercial, we do more have an educative approach and just want to present the latest information in a really good format.
Right. And this is basically when this thing all started, right? Because you guys were at the Mexico, right? Have I pronounced the name of the Congress correctly?
Mexico, correct. Yeah.
Correct. Great. So as what you guys have done is build, let's say, an immersive app specifically for that concept. Like, I mean, why?
So, yeah, I can say, well, the Mexico is actually a marketing congress. So it's not a healthcare specific congress. And of course, we could have taken one of our medical cases and presented there, but we wanted to show how extended reality solutions help to create experiences, even with a very common topic like cereals, right? Like everything we know from everyday life, and how to create really a journey where the ingredients come from, and to teach something, educate something in a gamified way. Because when we can show it with a simple project, I think we got the trust that we can do it with medical topics, right?
Right. So use that as a test case of which you can basically talk about openly without restriction because it's
Correct.
fictional anyway. And
Right.
then while you're there, you hope that people are able to make the leap because that is also very important, right? Let's say
Correct.
from
Correct.
cereal to medical equipment, or maybe what is could be a pharmaceutical. That is something that I imagine your sales rep or marketing people that are in there help make that leap.
And it was also a test view for us because it was a few months ago, and it was the first really approach to present mixed reality. And we wanted to have some learnings for our clients and the future projects when MetaQuest 3 then came out, then maybe the Apple Vision Pro next year. You know what I'm talking about? So we wanted to have also some learnings from how the people like it, and the feedback was impressive. So it was really great. Mixed
I'm
reality
really
is
curious to hear about the feedback. And
yeah.
before getting there, I want to know about the process. So, Tatjana, as I
Mhm.
heard, right, the way this works is that, okay, we want to create, where did it start? I mean, who came up with the idea? We need something fictional to deploy on the conference. And how was the process of getting people in the organization? Because you built an actual app, right? An actual little
Mhm.
app showing a
Yep.
meaningful interaction in mixed reality. So we're not necessarily an afternoon work, right?
Mhm.
How was the process of designing it and pitching it? How did that work?
Mhm. Yeah. So in the beginning, it was just one thing that was clear, and that was that we wanted to position ourselves as somebody who knows the technology and has the knowledge about not only the technology, but also how to communicate ideas and storylines and how to basically emotionalize every topic. So we were searching for something that would enable us to do this. And as Matthias said, obviously we could have taken a medical theme, but a medical theme is always a bit complicated usually. So as he already mentioned, the Mexico is not a professional healthcare trade fair. It was basically for everyone involved in marketing. So we didn't know which kind of expertise they would have. So that meant that we were searching for something that basically everybody can understand. So that's why Serial. And from there on, we decided on what kind of technology do we want to present. So actually, at the trade fair booth, we had two technologies in the end. So we had two apps. We are just talking about one of them today in detail, but actually, we had an augmented reality app and a mixed reality app.
Okay.
Um, you can see it a bit later on in the ShapesXR prototype because there's like one corner just standing up there with the
Yes.
augmented
And by the
reality.
way, for everybody here listening, stay tuned because we are actually going into the prototype,
Mhm.
into the
Yeah.
States, see later screenshots, a little capture of what the final experience is. So
Yes.
stay tuned. Tatjana, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Get people hooked.
Oh, fine. Yeah,
And
true, true. So, yeah, exactly. We're gonna have a look later on. So from there on, it was like, okay, we have the topic, we have the technology, but what is actually the story we want to tell? And so we discussed a couple of ideas and just brainstormed what is interesting about serials. And then we thought about, okay, what could be interesting about serials, but what is the technology actually giving us? So, what is the advantage of using mixed reality for such a topic, basically?
yeah,
So, we came up with okay, mixed reality enables everyone who's using it to take a journey basically to wherever we want them to. Um, so this led us to the idea to have a little journey with our clients or um,
user.
users actually, yeah, um, to show them where some of the ingredients for the cereals come from and how they grow. Um, and in this way, we developed a storyline for two of the main ingredients, which would be corn, obviously for cereals, and also coconut, which we just found to be a good ingredient to showcase, basically. And from there on, it was very important to get everyone on board with the actual vision. And that's where ShapesXR also came into play. Because in our experience, the easiest way to get everyone on board doesn't really matter if they're experienced in mixed reality applications or not, is to hands-on show what you want to do. So that's why we use then ShapesXR to just do smaller mock-ups in the first round, basically, just to have like a vision, what would it be? And also to figure out how much do we need to keep from the real world through the mixed reality, and how much can we replace basically by digital graphics, and
Absolutely.
what is too much and what not. You will see it in a bit. Yeah, and from there on, we just iterated a couple of times until everyone was happy. And then we used this basically as the layout and idea to put it into Unity, so a game engine, to actually create the application.
Yeah. So, and maybe if also for everybody here listening, just to also give a little bit of background, when we think about ShapesXR, it's a design and prototyping tool for XR, and imagining a bit like Figma for XR. So in that case, you can import your own 3D models, you can import your images, and then start designing spatially. Now, one of the things that Tatjana was mentioning was also the fact that it's compatible with mixed reality, so you can start designing on your own environment. And you can scale it, you can put assets in there, you can do it together with others, you can show it to others. And it's basically the value of building the storyline spatially, and you don't do it in front of a screen, you don't present it behind the screen, but you actually show it spatially to others.
Mhm.
And one question that I had, so before backtracking a little bit from the Unity part, right? That's as a next step. How was the process of communicating this to people internally? And how did that feel compared to, for example, communicating something similarly using images or other visual format?
Mhm. Yeah. So obviously, the very, very first idea was just a scribble. So 2D mock-up, really basic, just to get an idea of everything. But right after that, the next step was to jump into ShapesXR to actually use this. And in the beginning, I tried to just draw everything in shapes. So, you have like the small pencil tools and everything. But this was a bit too abstract, so that was more for the project team itself, like the 3D artists and technical artists, because we're used to it. When we were happy, the next step was to get everyone else on board. So that means, in our case, not only extended reality team members, which are experienced and do it every day, but also storytelling writers, project management, also on our CEO at some point needed to see it. So people that are just basically thrown into the project for a second and just have to look. And in this case, Shapes was really helpful because using some replaceable assets, just some assets that have the general vibe I wanted to transfer, using these in the app and then just coming up with a couple of variations how it could look. Everyone got a VR glasses, joined in. We were all in the same room. Everyone can see the same scene, but I, as the presenter, had like the power to just moderate it all. So that
Right.
was really useful because I could say like, look there's this and this, and that was the idea about it. And compared to this, what do you like more? And people could then just freely walk around, scale it up, scale it down, have a detailed look, everything. So that was really helpful to really quickly decide on a main theme, the main idea, and also the main look about it.
This is great. And I think I want to capture one thing that you said is like,
Mhm,
we started from some scribbles
mhm,
because as a designer, first I need to, okay, what's this going to look like? Well, what is this even about, right? You could, once you got the scribble, you go in Shapes and you start building something. Very rough sketches, could be literally cubes and brushstrokes, rough.
Yeah.
But then you want to show it to someone. And in order to show it to someone, a palm tree that is a cube and some rectangle on top for leaves, it kind of needs to look like a palm tree, right? So you get a model from Sketchfab, or maybe you get an image to like a PNG to replace a corn bits and so on, right? And that was the moment that basically kind of that conversation happened. People were able to understand, and you were able to then get real-time feedback of something that, as I understand, would have taken quite a bit to get out of a Unity of a 3D artist, and then you couldn't actually iterate on in real time. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
But, Matthias, I'm curious, were you part of any of those review? How did that feel?
Yeah, of course, some of them. But what I wanted to add, it starts with the room you're meeting, because you don't have to block any conference room and you go through a PowerPoint or a keynote presentation with some visuals. You can meet in the hallway, you can meet in our VR rooms, which are here also in the building, and you have kind of a stand-up meeting feeling, and it's totally different, because then you decide, okay, let me take a look, and actually take a look onto your idea, and then you can comment on it live.
Absolutely.
And that's what I enjoyed. Yeah.
So let's do one thing. I think we have been talking abstract for quite a while. So how about we jump in shape, Tatjana? So you can give me that same presentation and you can show me more precisely what you meant. Shall we do it?
Yeah, of course.
Great. Let's do it. Because that's the way we roll. We go for live demo, live stream events. Let me just give me 1 second to start the streaming. And present. It's almost there, and I think I am there. Entire screen, share. Here we are.
Looks good.
Perfect. Here I am. I'm waiting for Tanya to appear any moment.
Yeah, hang on. I might have to restart the glasses.
Yeah, that's always what happens. We can still kind of like look a little bit around as being. So this was a sort of a mock-up that I see of the boot.
Yes, exactly. So I just have a look at screen meanwhile. Exactly. So this is a really rough replica of the actual trade fair booth. So you see, it was really not much space, but we knew we wanted to display 2 to 3 different technologies. Actually, there was a third, which was not from the extended realities team. But product development, which was situated in the shelf on the wall in the back. But there were the people standing on one corner. That was the idea for the space for the augmented reality app. And then on the other counter, opposite side, where now there is corn and a coconut on it, that was the space for the actual mixed reality application. Yeah.
So Tatjana, why don't you jump in? We'll wait for you. Don't worry, no pressure.
Yep.
And here, by the way, is a little corn piece. That these are all 3D objects that could be indeed manipulated. Looks like could be a model from Sketchfab or maybe one of your own library. So this is a bit the assets, and these are assets that can be imported from the library. So we have a web panel, and in there, in the team plan, you also have folders that you can use to organize those assets, so you can find them easily and get images as well as OBJ and GLTF. And here is Tanya. Hello, Tatjana.
Yeah, it's still loading. A second. But yes, hello.
Hello, Tatjana.
Yeah. So, all right. just quickly turn this on. Exactly. So, yeah, as you already mentioned or showed, this is the actual trade fair booth. So that was actually a really important point to make a digital replica, because, as I mentioned, it was really a tight space. And we had also one session just basically having all the parts of our trade fair booth in shapes and just mix and matching them around and trying different layouts for our booth until we
Right.
figured out where to position everything so nobody would crash into somebody else, and everyone would have a good feeling trying the applications on the trade fair booth. That was one step actually before we developed the app in itself.
Right. Right. So you can go ahead and guide me a
Yeah.
little bit through the story
Mhm,
and the different steps. So I see
of course.
here, where does the app start? So I see a coconut, I see a corn, and what happens then? I'm here, and this is very important. I'm now at 100% scale, so I see
Yes.
everything at the right size. And then what happens?
Yeah, exactly. So, as I already mentioned, we decided on the ingredients beforehand, so we knew it would be two different storylines. So that meant we needed some kind of entry point to enter into these different storylines. And very early on, we decided on using mixed reality, as I mentioned, but also hand tracking instead of
Right.
controllers. So we wanted to actually have something that you could easily grab and then just
Mhm.
interact. So the second thing we decided on was what kind of interaction would we have? This is really important for the ongoing uh, storytelling in the next
Right.
steps. And that would be one, grabbing, obviously, and the
Mhm.
other interaction we decided on was throwing.
Right.
So you can actually use hand tracking in the app, in the finished app as well, grabbing things and throwing them. So knowing this, we actually, I made a little scribble here
Yeah.
in
The action of throwing.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So just showing you're supposed to throw it, because this was really important also in the presentation for everyone else on board. And if you do so, this would trigger then, in this case, the storyline of the corn. So
Right.
with the
And
little,
let's also do
yeah.
one thing because now you don't see it, but
Mhm.
let me also toggle mixed reality for
Oh,
me
yes.
so that people will be able to see it. And maybe let me put it here in my room. Wait, this side. You still hear me? Matthias, can you still hear me, right?
Yes, everything's fine.
Right.
Yeah, it works.
Yes.
So, mhm,
Yeah. So what we wanted to do, as I said before, we wanted to take the user on a little journey, basically. And the journey would contain how to grow corn, or actually what are the steps a corn plant needs to do to have corn in the end. And the same thing for the coconut. Or basically, the coconut storyline is a little different. It's not about growing the coconut, but harvesting it.
right.
Um, because this was just more interesting instead of growing a palm tree.
And for
um,
example, what I like here in your
mhm,
experience is that you make the user part of it. The moment that
yeah,
crates and corn starts appearing around them, like, oh, I don't see just through a portal, I'm kind of like part of the story, right? The moment I have to
yeah,
the action to throw the corn, I'm now part of it.
yes, exactly.
Very nice.
So So what we wanted also to achieve is that the user actually feels that a part of the other world, let's say, like the cornfield, is actually kind of spilling into your own environment.
Right.
Um, so you can see it much better in the actual application later, but you will see it across all the ShapesXR prototyping slides here as well. So what we actually did was, like, we created, I hope you can see my strokes.
You can. Real time,
um,
all real time. Yes.
yes, all real time. I'm now drawing into my own sketches. So we implemented very early on that we needed something that would create like a window into the other world, the window like into the world we want to take the journey in, which then enables to spill some of this environment into our own. So we created this kind of 300 not 360 this 3D portal, but we also didn't want the player to actually walk into it because as you saw in the beginning, this is a trade fair booth. So we wanted the player to be stationary and not walk right into the hallway into people. So that's why we also implemented this countertop here, to make sure people have like a relatable point in the real world. They could like an anchor point, basically.
Right. And by the way, this is the point, right? So you prevent him to actually, hey, where am I going? Maybe someone starts walking by and it's like, hey. So yeah, I think it does make very much sense. And this shows how incredibly important is designing for mixed reality, having mixed reality in mind, because this is not something that you might have even let's say, figure out if you were doing this in 2D, to be honest.
Yes, exactly. So that was a really important step, to actually put the 3D models into a 3-dimensional scene, and also having like the pass remote to actually put it into a room in our company that has roughly the same measurements as later on the trade fair booth, to have a feeling of distance, basically. What would be the distance between the standing point and then later on the portal, for example. And this becomes much more clear on the next slide, actually, because as you see, the introductional step for the storyline is just putting the scene, or putting the player into a scene, so they have like basically a rough understanding where they are, but then actually triggering the actual storyline. So now you can see there are like some coin seeds across the field. This is actually a bigger jump in the application later on, because in the actual application, we later decided that the player should do the action of actually seeding the coin. So they get like a little 3D coin and they throw it onto the field, and then it's planted. So by planting it, this basically starts an animation process in which the user can see the coin actually growing. So I visualize this by basically like a step-by-step animation. Just frame
I
by
see
frame.
that. Let me take a little control on the presentation, just like tack, tack, and here we go.
Actually, yeah.
Very well done.
In the end application, in the final application, this is all accompanied by voiceover. So there is a storyteller in the scene as well, and you can hear sounds. And the voiceover is just explaining how corn grows, and has some metaphors for marketing as well. So because it was a marketing trade fair. Yes, and this is basically already the whole storyline for the corn, because our goal was to have a really short experience, because it's a trade fair, so not much time. Exactly. So a lot of people should have the possibility to see this. And the overall goal was to just have an emotional and captivating experience in the end. And this was really nice. I think, if I remember correctly, the first time I showed this to the team, it was a real aha moment, basically, because they were standing basically where the player would stand in the end, so on the digital counter in this case. And you could, even if it was not an actual animation, it was the step-by-step here. And my connection got just lost. I don't know if you can still see me in Shapes.
Yes.
All right. Okay. But basically, yes, it was a real cool moment, because the corn was actually growing just by me switching the slides and Shapes, basically. And people always started wandering around through the field as well when we were in our own environment. So that was really great.
Yes, you don't see me, but I'm casting this in mixed reality. So you will see later that I'm actually doing exactly what you have been saying, right?
Yeah.
You will see.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
maybe why don't you get us through the rest of the story just to tell
Yes.
people how this all look like, and
Yes.
then we can then hop off the headset.
Of course. So now you saw the storyline for the corn, and
Mhm.
if you wanted to switch the storyline to the coconut, the only thing you had to do was, or is actually, um, grabbing the coconut and throwing it in front of you. So because it's always the same trigger, you grab something and you throw it in front of you, and it triggers the new storyline.
Correct.
So let's do this. Okay, a couple of more animation slides from here. Yes. So that would then
Yes.
start the coconut storyline, and you can see already the change of scene, change of vibe, also the image on the portal changed. Um, and now you're in a coconut palm tree um, field, basically.
Yeah.
um, Also, like the images in the portal, these are actual 360 degrees imagery. So if you would step into the portal, you would be actually in another world, basically in another environment, not in shapes, but in the
Right.
actual application. Um, and we actually created them with AI. So
Right.
because we had no 360-degree imagery. Um, yeah, so as I mentioned before, the corn was about growing corn, and the coconut is about harvesting a coconut. Because there are actually a lot of interesting facts about how to harvest a coconut, because it's really high up and you need some serious technical
Mhm. Yeah.
technicality to get it down. So this was the whole storyline. So you see this harvesting tool, basically, which is
Yeah.
just a really long stick, that would be animated and automatically harvest a coconut for you in the actual application later. And a coconut would automatically throw fall down and land in front of you. So as I mentioned before, it was really important that the user wouldn't move too much so he wouldn't collide with somebody or something. um, so we needed to make sure that everything they are meant to interact with is basically just an arm length away. So the coconut would stop right in front of your eyes, um, just freshly harvested for you. And then in the first iteration, we thought about, okay, you grab the coconut and you throw it onto the ground and it cracks open, and then it would just come up to you again. And then you would have like some explanations about all the parts contained in a coconut. That was the first iteration. And I did it here in Shapes, obviously. And then we thought about, okay, maybe people could hit on accident the counter, doing like this
Mhm.
throwing on the ground motion. So we weren't really happy about this. And also it was kind of an awkward motion. We all were standing in Shapes in the in the mock-up and acting out the motion and just doing like the hand motion, throwing something down, and was just really weird and
Right.
didn't really work. So later on, and I think this is not in the actual prototype, but later on, we, because of this experiment, decided that we would have like a large knife, like a
Right.
machete,
Machete. Yeah.
machete, right, to split open the coconut. And after that, we just land on the same spot, like we see right now,
Right. Right.
having it explained to us. And this is the end of the storyline as well. So as I said, it was meant to be really, really short experience.
Perfect. I mean, look, there is so much learning and things that we could kind of like wrap up from, even though a very short experiment, a very short app that you have designed and created. I think the core I see here is starting spatially and starting to do this in 3D. It's gonna prevent it's gonna allow you to discover so many things that are not evident when you're doing in 2D. Like, for example, hey, how the motion of, yeah, exactly this. I am just bumped against my table because
Yeah.
if it was there, I would throw this to the ground and I could bump on the podium.
Yeah.
And how those things would appear around you, what should be the scale of the things around you, how do you show the motion of the spear to put down the thing. So I think it's like starting designing in 3D really like led to a different experience ultimately.
Yes.
Right. This is great. Tatjana, let's go off the headset. Let's go back to our reality, right? and keep the conversation.
Welcome back.
Going. Hi, Matthias. How are things? Is everything under control?
Yes, and it looked great. It looked like fun.
We have. Let me see if I have some questions from there. But so I was first wanted to thank Tatjana for getting us through the. To getting us to the whole prototype, to the whole story. So now I'm curious. So what is now the role of how do you see ShapesXR being used in other projects internally based on this learning and based also on how do you expect the interest around mixed reality, right? This is another important point. You've shown the Vision Pro, the Quest 3, it's now available, meaning that these mixed reality experiences become an actual, wait, I've done a mistake. I want to apologize. I want to show what's the final product. Let's get maybe like a couple of minutes or less just to show, because I think it's really, and then I'll resume back to that questions, okay? So let me get it on stage, and here it is. So this is indeed the action, the portal opening, and we are here at the coconut bit, right?
Yes, exactly. So as you can see a bit later on, we decided on even making the portal even bigger than in the prototype, because it was really a nice, a nice imagery. So yeah, and as you can see, we created a bit bigger space. And with the actual assets, obviously. And what you can't hear right now, because it's also a German voiceover, so probably not a lot of people would understand it, there is actually a continuous voiceover with it to narrate the whole experience.
Yeah. And I want to just pause this a second, because there have been a couple of questions on LinkedIn.
Yes.
They are asking for those presentations, how many people was involved in a presented project?
That is a good question. Hang on, I have to count.
Around about 5 to 10 when
Yeah.
you take project management also as well into account. Yeah.
So I got another questions that for Vincent, who joined a little bit late. Why did you build this project?
Yeah. So you want to tell, Tatjana?
Yeah, I can quickly wrap it up again.
Go for it.
Basically, this was a project for a trade fair called the Mexico. It's a marketing trade fair, which is not usually our target group. It's more healthcare related, but we wanted to show that we know about these technologies and how to use them to do exciting storytelling, basically. So we wanted to show that it doesn't really matter what kind of product you have. So we used something everybody knows, cereals, and showed the ingredients. But the whole thing was about showing how storytelling can be thought in a different way, maybe a bit outside of the box, and also how to make use of these new technologies.
Yeah. Makes very much sense. Thanks for wrapping it up. And so, Vincent, I hope that answered your question. I have another one actually from Marina Borriello. She's asking how long did it take to create this kind of prototype?
Yeah. So for the prototype itself, you mean like the ShapesXR prototype, or with
I would
the
say both.
actual?
We can answer both, right?
Yeah,
So first
sure.
the prototype, and then so we cover everything.
So basically, the whole project from idea to finished product took around 3 months in development, but it was not continuous only working on this project. So we have a couple of projects usually in parallel. So that was not 3 months in total, but 3 months over a course of 3 months. And the actual idea took like a month to create and really get to a point where we could start. And creating the ShapesXR scenes for it took, I mean, it was an iterative process as well, but I would say if I rounded up, around 1 to 2 days I spent in Shapes. But this was not the only scenes you just saw. This is like
Yes,
some
yes.
slices.
I still think it's very impressive. I mean, 1 to 2 days come out with a full spatial prototype that
Yeah.
both meets reality. I think it's really impressive. So well done, Tatjana. And
Thank you.
on that follow up, was the whole interface designed and developed inside Shapes?
You mean like the user interface?
That would be my guess.
Yeah. Yes and no would be the actual answer. We designed all the 2D imagery in Figma and used the integration, which Shapes and Figma has, to import it into Shapes. And then we were like iterating over it again and again. And all our findings that we found out by just placing it in the scenes and just seeing, is it readable? Is it blocking something? Is something else blocking it? Blah, blah, blah. All these questions. Using all these findings, going back to Figma, tweaking, importing it again, and so on and so on.
Yeah, and by the way, for people that do not know, there is also a direct link from Figma to Shapes, meaning that if you have a Figma component or group, you can directly link it to Shapes, and then if you make a change in Figma, you can refresh, and that change is basically live reproduced in Shapes. And by the way, I'm not the one saying great job. I also got Marina say thanks, great job, Tatjana. So
Thank you.
I'm not the only one there, and there is more kudos from other folks. So great work. So let's finish looking at this, and then I want to end up with this last question because I think it's still worth it to see how this actually keeps looking like. Oh, that's it. That was the poking thing that
Yes.
led the coconut fall, right?
Yeah. So it seems like a long time until something happens now, but actually there is the narrator
Of course.
going on now. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about here. I think here we go. So this is where the interaction with the machete that you were telling
Yes.
me.
And you can see the hand tracking. There's the actual digital hand of MetaQuest, and then just grabbing it.
Right. And I think, so these were the different parts of the UI.
Yes.
Let me check if there was any sort of course, I can imagine an explanation of the narrator of the different parts. Yeah, so it looks very, very close indeed with placeholder assets, the one that was created in Shapes, because again, it was about palm tree, but there are going to be trees, there is going to be earth, and so on. There's going to be that portals, but then you can clearly see the one-on-one reproduction of what basically the work. So Vincent was saying, awesome work, guys. So Lena is also asking, where did you find the presets for the coconuts and stuff? Did you create from scratch? Where did you find the assets? Maybe the mock-up one and the final one.
Yeah. So the mock-up ones was a mixture of Substance 3D assets from the library and free assets from the internet, just finding them, and some things that we built ourselves, like the ground, for example.
Right.
And for the final product, it was a mixture as well of asset packs from the Unity store and bought assets, I think, on TurboSquid. We bought like the corn package, basically.
Yeah.
And some variations of the bought assets from our 3D team. Yeah, so because we had a really tight time frame.
They also, for the sake of saving time and resources, getting assets from outside, it's great. And for the mockup, it's very easy to also import them in Shape. You can import GLB, OBJ, and especially with the team plan, you get a bigger file size. So even if you have a bigger, you are not constrained by initial limit.
Yes.
I wanted to go back to the question to Matthias in general, right? So with mixed reality becoming a reality, something that it becomes more accessible in many different ways, and with the Vision Pro at the horizon, how do you see that becoming of your strategy? And also, what role do you think Shapes can have in that strategy?
Well, we have mixed reality on our plan. I think this project showed that we are open and are already testing it since a few months now. We think that will be one of the topics in the next year also for our business, because the feedback of the users was, even those who never had a virtual reality or mixed reality goggle on, that they felt more safe, because they were able to see the actual environment, and it felt more comfortable, and you were able to talk to them while they're having the goggles on. So this is, for me, a main point why it will be successful. And for us, it's important to create fast prototypes in two different moments before the project, when we're pitching it. So to have something a client can look at. And we often also pitch it to clients who didn't ask for it. So to really get their engagement and their involvement in such a topic, you have to have something they can grab and interact with, to get really involved in doing something like that. And then after the commitment, and after a client has approved that he wants to go that way, to implement it in our agile process of project management, and creating increments, and showing the client, involving the client in milestones, and maybe inviting after each sprint to show what we have created the last 4 weeks in a project which goes 3 to 6 months, and not have that feeling at the end, here is a lot of money, do something in virtual reality, see you in 6 months, and then the client sees it and it's great, but I thought it would be different. No, you have to work with that expectations, and really work, we say in German, shoulder on shoulder with the client as a partner at that project, and really discuss what the milestones look like, for example, every 2 to 4 weeks.
Absolutely. Matthias, I really wanted to thank you, and I think it is indeed very exciting to see this becoming accessible, and having also to hear such great stories of teams like yours and from Tatjana especially, to really master this tool, redesign their own design process, how it's pitched, how the story is told, and come up with really great experience within such a short timeline. So guys, I really wanted to thank you, and I wanted to thank everybody who was here, listening with us, asking questions, sharing kudos with the team, and overall, the participation was great. So thank you very much. Matthias, Tatjana, thank you again. I'm looking forward to have you here for the next project. Not sure you'll be able to talk about it, but we'll certainly stay in touch, because we have at the horizon a lot of incredible updates. So I think that from here we are just gonna get bigger and better.
Thank you, Gabriele, for having us. It was great.
It was a real pleasure.
Thank you very much,
everybody, and check out antwerpes AG, check out ShapesXR if you're looking for a design and prototyping tool, and I'll see you next time. Bye
everybody.
Bye.